I can remember every semis that I've played, who I played, what the score was, because it's like every single match is that important.
Cloud9 with their eyes on the Nexus, their eyes on the summer split.
C9 TSM has always been like a really intense rivalry.
Most of the finals in LCS have been C9 versus TSM. At the very beginning, we smashed them, but I think we lost every other time.
TSM once again, NA LCS champions.
Except for last year.
They give Bjergsen, it's a 3-0. It's a 3-2 victory for Cloud9.
Of course, it always feels nice going up against TSM and being able to win against them, having like the final say, like, yeah, haha, you lost against me again.
I mean, in no way do I really compare TSM last year to the TSM that we are now.
Finds the ult, brings the cleanse flash, not gonna got the first damage, 2 games in a row, first blood to TSM!
We're gonna do it differently, and we're gonna win this time.
Last season, I think we were successful with the tools that we had, but now we have, bigger and better tools.
Everyone expects TL to win. That's my old team. They've been like dominating the whole regular season, and then like FLICKR just randomly shows up and takes it out.
FlyQuest defeat Team Liquid!
I think that would be hilarious.
I know he really wants to beat us and show that we made a mistake. We should have kept him, but FlyQuest, I mean, there's a reason why we picked them. We have the best chance of beating them. I'm always worried because in playoffs, anything can happen. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to take down a really tough opponent, and I think we are the really tough opponent.
Back-to-back sweeps! TL's the best team in North America!
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where the first semifinal gets rolling in just about 10 minutes. Today, we've got another chapter in the longest rivalry in the LCS, where both teams once again meet in a semifinal.
Yeah, last time they met was 2017 Spring Finals, and that was a best-of-5, went the whole way. It was super hype, and they have matched up more than any other team in history of the LCS.
Right.
Yep.
And they've played a total of 75 times against each other, most of any rivalry in the LCS. People always CLG TSM. No, C9 TSM have 17 more games now.
Well, it always makes good games, too, so you got to watch.
All right, and they always extend those series, generally to 4 or 5 games. 2 members, though, have consistently been in the crossfire of these struggles, and those members are Bjergsen and Nisqy, of course. No matter how much the teams have changed around them, these two guys remain the same.
Yeah, and if you look at their all-time record, it looks like it's in C9's favor. Nisqy has 42 wins, 32 losses, whereas Bjergsen's just under 500 with 33 wins, 34 losses. But if you flip to playoffs, the story goes the other way. Nisqy's the one just under 500, and Bjergsen has the advantage of 17 and 13. So, gonna be another storied matchup between those two guys.
Well, playoffs is all that matters.
Yeah,
Every time, right? That's where you actually get the trophy at the end.
And I think if you look at recency, right, Bjergsen, or a lot of those wins for Nisqy come from the earlier days of Cloud9 when he made
a couple
the
of those are Reginald. 3 of those losses are Reginald.
Yeah, very much so. And we've already, of course, seen what it takes to take down Bjergsen in the postseason. But just to further impress Bjergsen's insane record, he will be the first player in LCS history, to hit 100 playoff games during today's series.
Game 3 is when it will happen.
Exactly. We're guaranteed at least 3 games. He's at 97 now, so he will hit that 100 postseason games mark in this series. Just as we did last week, though, for Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest, let's see where the analysts put their faith lane by lane. Starting with the top lane. To save ourselves a little time, I had them throw their faces up there during the commercial break. All 3 of you say that this is a Licorice favorite matchup.
Yeah, I wanted to go as far as Hyde did, but I didn't want to cover his face up, so I went a little left. But this is, for me, super in Licorice's favor.
Right, there's no reason not to pick Licorice over Broken Blade. That might change throughout the course of the playoffs itself. But for now, there's no reason to say that Licorice is not the better top lane.
I mean, I agree that Licorice is the better top laner. That's why I went that way. But you guys are putting it almost all the way at 100%. And while he does have the flexibility that he's been playing carries and tanks, Broken Blade has been playing way more carries, and to me, it has a pretty substantially deep champion pool that you have to give him some credit, to the point where he might have some crazy counter picks that Licorice may have not practiced against.
Right, but you have to keep in mind, with that giant champion pool that's shown here, there's a lot of losses on those champions, actually. So it's a bit deceiving to say his champion pool is bigger when there's a lot of losses.
And champion pool doesn't mean different playstyles either. So, I have no doubt that Broken Blade will not run out of carry champions in this matchup. The question is, if that stops working, can they flip their playstyle another way? Because so far, he has 1 Scion game, so it feels like they are stuck with him on the carry top matchup.
a peek at the top lane matchup. Let's jump on down to the jungle. So as you guys throw your faces up on the board, just as a reminder, this is Svenskeren versus Akadian. Akadian played in his very first playoff best-of-5 just last week. Had some pretty impressive stats, but I think you can't ignore the change in Sven when it comes to regular season to playoffs. Something miraculous happens.
This is something we've always known about Sven. He always turns up when it comes to international games, playoff matches. He plays much better in those times. So he has so much experience in these high-pressure moments, whereas Akaadian has only had one playoff series. And to top things off, he really only played one champion in the rec side, so he hasn't been tested. His champion pool has not been attacked, and those are situations that if you're not used to in playoffs, they're gonna happen, and you're gonna have to be able to adapt quickly. I have faith that Sven could do it, not yet. In Akadia.
I think it would be closer to Akadian's favor if we knew that he was going to play like last series every time, but there's just not enough sample size to trust him quite yet. And in the regular season, he did struggle with late game engages, which is going to be super important for both junglers.
All right, so far, we're very much C9 favored in this matchup, but we still got 3 more positions to go. Let's hop on down to that mid lane. Of course, Bjergsen, who's going to hit that 100 mark in the postseason games today, up against Nisqy, the guy who replaced Jensen, looking to make his stamp on the LCS as well.
Damn, High's all the way over.
Woo! All right, High.
I have some personal experience playing versus Bjergsen and Nisqy, and to be fair to Nisqy, it was quite a while back, but there's a large difference between the two, and just looking at both players, I gotta say Bjergsen is pretty dominant compared to every other mid laner that's played in the LCS, and I don't see that changing with Nisqy.
That's a graveyard right there of all the mid laners that Bjergsen has.
Don't worry, you're at the top of the pile.
Yes, I am happy about that, kind of.
Of course, Golden Glue, the only undefeated mid laner against Bjergsen in the postseason, is available to sub in if Cloud9 needs him, as they did just last year against Bjergsen. But of course, they will be starting with Nisqy. So let's talk a little bit more about that matchup. Mark, why are you willing to put it that close?
I think it's really important. Both these guys are the highest in kills and assists at 15, and so this is the heat map of their kills and assists at 15. Bjergsen is red, and you'll see there's a lot more focused around the mid lane for Bjergsen. But when you go up to the top side of the map, it is heavily Nisqy favored in terms of where these kills are happening. With TSM's playstyle being so top lane focused, C9's is the same, and they do a better job of getting Nisqy out there and influencing that. So that's where the concerns about Broken Blade start factoring in. It's not just about the mid lane, and Nisqy himself says this all the time. I don't really care about my mid lane matchup specifically. It's about helping elsewhere.
Something super interesting about that heat map, only Bjergsen is fighting around blue buff. Nisqy has no instances where he's actually contesting that objective.
I don't care about that.
Yeah, so what's up with that? I think that Bjergsen knows that these objectives are very important. When you play against TSM, they will always contest the buffs every single time, and you see that Bjergsen does it. Just blue buff.
Red, whatever. Just blue buff.
I think it's a really interesting conversation, too, to look at the mid lane and say, all right, within the lane itself, Bjergsen favored. But what happens when the guys get out of the mid lane? And if that's the reasoning why you're willing to say, okay, the matchup's a little bit, he's going to go affect the top lane more, and that's where I think the matchup hinges around, then, hey, now it's only a 60-40 matchup instead of
I wish I moved that a little further.
Okay, what would you say? Would you say 65?
I'm committed still.
35? Okay,
I'm still committed.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the ADCs then. Nisqy, the other long-standing member of these organizations for Cloud9, up against Zven.
Ooh,
whoa! Is that right in the middle?
Right in the middle, James.
Smack dab in the middle. Oh my goodness, all 3 of you are in agreement here. Okay,
I'm not in the middle.
Okay, slightly on Sven's side, but the closest matchup we've had so far here on this corkboard. Let's start with the 2 guys who are slightly Sven favored.
Right, I love Nisqy, but they're very similar in their play in that they're both very consistent AD carries that aren't extremely lane dominant. They'll do their jobs in lane. But when I think about Sven and Nisqy, and the difference is that I think Sven is a harder carry than Nisqy is. When it comes to super late games, I believe Sven has the edge and be able to pull out the team fights.
I think he's a little bit more consistent in lane as well, and I like that they have played some more lane-dominant things, so they get a power point on the map so they can more easily play around the top side. I like how they all work together, and I think Sven is just slightly better this season.
I think it's going to be really interesting about the Varus pick. We saw it be heavily contested in the previous series. Zven has a match on it, and while we know Nisqy can play it, guarantee you that pick is going to start turning up because being able to engage from the bottom lane is going to be huge in unlocking the rest of the team to play whatever carries they need.
My favorite aspect of the bottom lane is the fact that it's a duo, so we have to consider the supports when we're talking about this lane in its entirety.
I have so many pins.
Smoothie versus Zeyzal.
You can take some of my pins.
I don't know, just in case he dropped them or something. I don't know.
In the middle.
Right smack dab in the middle again. So we have a very even matchup here in the bot lane, it seems.
I mean, Zeyzal and Smoothie are practically some of the best supports that the league have alongside Core JJ, and with Zven and Nisqy being so close, this matchup is most likely just going to be determined based on the champions that they select. So when it's so much about champions, I tend to gravitate towards 50-50 because you don't know what to expect in the draft.
Right, they're both huge playmakers that have last shot calling prowess as well. It's hard for me to decide which support I liked better, and I really think they're very similar to each other.
They're really, really similar. I think Zeyzal has been a little bit better over the course of the year, so I'm going to favor him just a little bit, and I liked how he does a good job of making a lot of engages, and you can hear his shot calling is super, super clean, where sometimes Smoothie gets a little energetic.
So it seems it's very interesting to me that we seem to have kind of agreement here in the consistency of the bottom side of the map for both of these teams, and then large disparity in terms of the matchups from mid, jungle to the top lane. The next consideration is how this might factor into your three's predictions for this series today. So, who do you think's booking the first trip to St. Louis High? We're going to start with you.
Well, I have to go with my team, Cloud9, because I supported them with my political campaign, and here I am supporting them again to go to St. Louis.
All right, fair enough. A 3-2 prediction, though, so you're calling it a close one.
Yeah, I don't foresee it being a 3-0 like Reaper says. If he does get a 3-0, I'll buy him some dinner or something like that, but I doubt it. I see this being a 3-2.
Fair enough. Crumbs, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that Cloud9 is going to be able to take this one home. Even though I have been saying for a while that I thought TSM would be the favorites in the entire playoffs, look at this chart right here. C9 has 2 members that are already heavily favored towards them in a meta that favors the top side of the match. I'm not sure how much Bjergsen is going to be able to skew this matchup. This, to me, is the X factor, is Nisqy. So because we have yet to see him perform against Bjergsen, I'm going to take the safe bet and go with Cloud9's top lane, 3-2 for them.
All right, Mark, you're the biggest C9 fanboy on the board.
Well,
so,
I mean, what are you talking about? I vouched for TSM with my political campaign, and I'm going to flip-flop and also take C9.
Whoa!
But I'm actually
No
going 3-1
TSMs.
because I don't, even though this is really close, and I think TSM has a good chance of actually winning the series, it doesn't feel like a 3-2 series where it's going to be back and forth. I feel like play style will be so important for what happens, and I think it's really in C9's favor, the play style, and we can go into that forever, but unless TSM changes things up, plays more around mid lane, plays more around bot lane, and doesn't play to the top side, I think this is heavily in C9's favor. And I don't think, unless, one of the 2 styles will win, and it won't be this back and forth like you see with the Golden Guardians FlyQuest series.
I mean, I think it's so, it resembles so well what we saw in the regular split. We had the idea of the rock, paper, scissors, but we also talk about, Cloud9 coming back in those games and their ability to find that one turnaround fight somewhere in the game, as well as the playmakers who can make it happen. All 3 of you agree that this will be a top side focused matchup?
It should be. That's what we've seen all season long.
Bot lane is so close to each other, right? And top lane, there's a big disparity, and then for mid lane, a big disparity too. So it's going to be the entire top side of the game that's going to make it for us.
It's so much easier to play safe in the bottom lane right now, whereas you have any matchup top lane, it's so easy to dive in and just snowball it out of control.
And to hop onto the point about the rock, paper, scissors and some of the game time stats you've heard us referencing, and some people in the community think we're just throwing those around, what you need to understand is when TSM wins from behind, they're going up against the fastest team in the league. So if you fall behind versus C9, you're gonna probably get crushed.
Right.
And then when you have your slower games, which they do have a lot of fast ones more recently for TSM, but if you do have a slow win, C9 also has a lot of comebacks as well, and they do really good at these kind of, if you look at their gold graphs, they're not these slow comeback in the game. They're, as our stats team describe it, a hockey stick.
Yes.
Where it's this, and then boom, they're suddenly in control. And so they're such an explosive team that TSM does need to pick their pace up against them.
The longer the game, the more opportunities the team has to find that one fight they need to turn it all around. It is a very interesting conversation. And of course, as you mentioned, the hot streak for TSM, separating recency from the average of their entire split. You don't want to call week 1 a similar performance or a good indicator of how they'll play in the playoffs themselves. You've heard from us about our thoughts on the matchup. It is a prediction for C9 across the board in a fairly lengthy series. With that, we're going to throw it out to the guys in the battle arena to get ourselves into this first best of 5.
Thank you very much, Dash. I'm Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns. I got a fresh haircut here for the game today, and I got even fresher co-casters.
Hell
my buddy
yeah.
Isaac Azael Cummings Bentley and Sam Kobe Hartman Kinsler here to bring us through what we're all hoping is a 5-game battle.
Yeah, despite the fact that the desk was unanimous in the C9 prediction, I think across the community, a lot of people think TSM could take this as well. I think it is incredibly close on both sides, especially with TSM coming in, only losing 1 game in their last 10 in the regular season.
TSM have been on a tear here, and a lot of teams expecting them to do quite well throughout playoffs. All right, starting off with a Rise ban, though. That one's going to be a double ban here for Nisqy and Licorice, like banning away some of these flexible picks.
Speaking of flexible picks, Cloud9 is going to go ahead and remove that Silas that we've seen them play to plenty of success in the past. TSM going to go ahead continue to ban out some of those picks that we've seen Cloud9 perform on well in the past with the Kindred, as Lissandra is ban number 4.
Yeah, Kindred has been one of the strong early game champions that a lot of different teams have been trying to incorporate, and Svenskeren definitely one of the players here, very deserving of one of the top 3 spots in the all LCS voting that he got in the jungle.
Yeah, and Lissandra, the most played for Bjergsen by far so far. This split, 7 plays on that 3 was his next most played on the Zillion and Zoe. So, not only is it taking away that pick from him, it's also something that has enabled his roaming style, which he has been very, very successful with. They talked about Bjergsen's ability to be getting kills in those side lanes, and that is going to help to cut that down a little bit.
Well, as Kennen and Irelia are banned out as the final bans here in this first phase, TSM will immediately throw down the top lane gauntlet and lock in the Jayce.
Yep. Oh. Not going to be a big surprise here, but an instant answer. Now, this is something that we've seen in Academy. We've seen it, I think first was actually in the TCL, and it has been a terror in solo queue, is the Taric plus Sona bottom lanes. They just have insane sustain early on. Sona goes with the Spell Thieves. You have huge amounts of poke, and they scale very well as support champions into the later game.
It's such an incredible amount of sustain, and it makes your team so tanky in those later stage team fighting because you're getting not only heals from 2 characters, you're getting AoE shielding from the Sona. You have the ultimate, which is now being paired up with Hecarim, so you have hard engage alongside that Taric ultimate, which is going to make it very, very effective.
This is what I like to see in playoff matches here. Already, the champion select is delivering. On the other side, they've got the Akali, possible star champion for Bjergsen here in the mid lane. It can still be swapped. Depending on the matchup that you want, you can keep your enemies guessing if they're going against AP threat from Akali or AD from Jayce. Bjergsen has had a long history of success with Jayce in the mid lane as well.
Now, one thing I want to go ahead and temper everybody real quick as we're moving through this champion select, because I know Sona Taric is hype, but remember, this is traditionally picked as something, I say traditionally even though it's brand new, but so far we've seen it picked into answers like this Tom Kench and stuff that's normally a greedy first pick support. I want to see if TSM have something planned to counter this in lane, deal with it more effectively. We'll see how that goes. The bans the second time around, Zillion, Gangplank, Thresh, and Galio, and we'll see what Cloud9 want to add to the roster now, looking towards those solo lanes or potentially still towards the jungle if they want to send that Hecarim top.
Also going to be really interested to see what the mid lane pick will be for Nisqy, because I tend to feel that the Sona Taric bot lane works best with, a marksman from another lane or some really high consistent form of DPS, because right now there's not a ton of consistent damage if this game were to go late for Cloud9, and you're looking at the other side that has a tremendous amount of late game DPS and consistent damage.
Not to mention, with the Poppy locked in here, there's a high chance that this is a jungle Hecarim and could be the mobility, just damage rocket Hecarim style from the jungle. They could also put the Poppy in the jungle, and there are definitely still some options. But Flowers, you're talking about the bottom lane, the Vayne Lulu double range matchup down there to try and get some money out of the Sona Taric lane.
Yeah, Taric is going to have to be really careful about how he's playing this. If you step forward for a stun and do actually miss that, this is certainly a lane that can trade very, very heavily back, but TSM is going to have to be careful because Vayne is not one of those early laners that has a tremendous amount of wave control, that has a tremendous amount of power in those early levels, and Sona certainly can bully you out.
And remember, it was TSM Academy that we saw break this strategy out during the Academy playoff. TSM as an organization has seen the Sona Taric before. They're not going into this saying, oh man, we weren't expecting this, what do we do now? They're familiar with it. I trust that they see this as a valuable counter to that pick, and I'm really excited to see how these bottom lanes face off.
Yeah, there's a reason that the coaching staff for both of these teams were voted to the top of the LCS. The preparation has been laid. Game number 1 about to get on the table.
Going into this first game, TSM versus Cloud9. Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, one of the longest standing rivalries in competitive League of Legends, period. Now again, these two going head to head, seeing who's gonna punch that ticket to St. Louis.
As expected, Spell Thief start here for Sona, and we will see the Sona Taric on the LCS stage here for our first game in the most highly anticipated matchups of playoffs so far, TSM and Cloud9.
This is gonna be a banger, man. He's not only going for Spell Thieves, this is Klepto Sona, so it's all about ramping up that early game income here for Nisqy.
And he's gone with the teleport as well. There's no combat summoner to help protect this Sona if there is an early gank bottom. One of the other ways to go after them, of course, Flash, Gragas, Initiation. Akaadian has been one of the guys, especially in the early game, that has been a big mover and creator of plays for TSM.
And that's why the jungle performance becomes so incredibly important, right? You know, you're gonna have Svenskeren tracking Akaadian, following him around the map, keeping eyes on where they are, because Nisqy and Zeyzal need to be able to play aggressively. They want to put this Vayne behind, certainly in those early levels.
And at the same time, I think this ties into what we were hearing from the analysts earlier. If TSM want to win this game, you want to see them play away from that top side of the map where Licorice is traditionally just that rock, that mountain for Cloud9. Instead, see them focus more towards mid, more towards bottom, more towards these places they could find advantages more easily. And that's what I'm specifically watching Akaadian for in this first game.
It's going to be a really exciting one, too, because even when you're thinking about how these comps will want to interact, it feels like for Cloud9, it's so much about group. Utilize that Taric ultimate for hard engage, force on top of these carries, and TSM, I think, want to slow down the pace, want to spread the map, utilize Jayce split pushing to buy time for Zven, and if you can get to those later stages with a Jayce, splitting, and you have the Lulu and Vayne buffing each other up, it gets very difficult to actually take that guy down.
One of the biggest things to look for, and with TSM's composition, is outplay potential. Akali and Vayne, two of the champions in the game with the highest skill cap. We did see Broken Blade last weekend on the Akali, surviving the early lane phase versus the Vayne, one of the most painful, and then making big plays later on with the Akali.
And I think that's going to make Licorice's job that much more important also. He has the ability to deny a lot of that playmaking on the Poppy with that steadfast presence. Interrupting people on those dashes, knocking out the Akali when she dives into an assassinate backline. And how that interacts will be so incredibly critical in this game one.
Well, we do see Akaadian on the bottom half of the map. He is spotted out by a ward there from the side of Cloud9. Svenskeren singing the same song here in the top lane as both junglers will secure the crabs, although they are seen in the process. And it's just some classic vertical jungling going on here as they move towards each other's blue.
And whenever to separate the jungle like this with bottom side for TSM, top side for Cloud9, it does allow the Poppy, who with the Corrupting Potion start, has a lot of early control, can push the wave in. Licorice is doing that now to try and force Akali under turret, try to drop some CS to that turret.
Nisqy shoving up the wave here early against Bjergsen with this Zoe. This is the champion that you're going to be looking at to deal that big GG level damage as the game goes on for Cloud9. Taric Sona bottom lane, not going to pack the same kind of a punch you would be expecting from a traditional marksman, so that means Nisqy will have plenty of heavy lifting to do, especially if Svenskeren doesn't go for that rocket-type build that you were describing earlier.
And they're also, the Sona Taric bot lane has to play very much on the back foot because they're on the weak side of the map right now with vertical jungling happening. They know Svenskeren is top side, so if you were to push out, if you are to play aggressively, you're exposing yourself so much to Akaadian's ganks.
Yeah, that's why they're sitting back here, just trying to get those Klepto procs off like you talked about, make use of the Spell Thieves, and the constant Targon charges as well. Zven goes in for a trade against the wall.
Be able to find a stun on the Nisqy there, who flashes away, looking to keep himself alive, but no, sir, it's first blood over to Zven.
Zven and Smoothie, but here we go!
Into the mid lane, Bjergsen now going to be in some trouble himself. Sleep coming down, more damage going through. Nisqy's able to find himself a kill, but here comes the counterattack. It's Akkadian making it 1-for-1.
And we got an action-packed early game here, everybody, with a counter from Akkadian cleaning up that extra kill. Cloud9 were trying to strike right back, but TSM take the advantage.
Their bot lane put so far behind by that Nisqy just getting caught by the Condemned straight against the wall. And here it is one more time. Nisqy trying to utilize this brush. He is warded out. Zven finds the opportunity, gets the Condemned straight into the wall, no hesitation. Ignite comes in before any healing could from Smoothie.
Yeah, I think in that scenario, you have to flash early as Nisqy so the Condemned doesn't hit you into the wall. Then mid lane, CNR are like, okay, we're gonna answer right back. They do dive the turret, Zven takes the turret shot for Nisqy. However, Akaadian is on the way up the mid lane, and so they make it a 1-for-1. both kills assisted, so very even gold traded there in the mid lane, and it's just TSM's advantage on bottom side, where they're able to kill that squishy Sona early on.
And it looks like we have a pause called by Broken Blade, and while that's happening, I want to go ahead and address something that I'm immediately seeing as a red flag, at least if you're a Cloud9 fan on the scoreboard right now, even though we're just 5 minutes into the game. Vayne free farming. Not only did Zven get himself the first blood, but if you look at how easy it is for him to farm up in this lane, especially with that jungle priority like you guys were talking about with vertical jungling, there is no threat on this guy at all getting to that 2-item spike of the Blade of the Ruined King and the Rage Blade.
It kind of just led some credence to the topic you brought up in Champion Select Flowers, where the Taric Sona very often counterpick into melee support matchups, but TSM take that opportunity to try and punish it with a very nicely scaling marksman in Vayne and the Lulu in lane, which can help take advantage of that weak lane.
And getting that early kill for Zven, that kind of just propels you towards your Vamp Scepter. And having an early Vamp Scepter is going to make it that much more difficult for this poke style of Sona to really run that lane whatsoever. If you can arrive at this point as that TSM bot lane where you're shrugging off the poke, where you're constantly regenning up, you can start to play very aggressively. And as showcased, their all-in is very potent.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at these later game team fights, one thing I'm thinking is, unless this horse just becomes pure Seabiscuit tier and can just run the Vayne down and kill him in one hit, you've got wild growth, you've got Lulu shields, you've got a lot of protection here for this guy, and if he doesn't go down instantly, how else are you going to be able to manage to get through to him? Zoe's not going to have easy skill shot access. When you have the Gragas who can get in front, when you have the Lulu who can even take shots if she needs to, the Vayne can pop off.
Definitely a possibility here. Lulu very good at protecting against that C9 initiation. The surprise factor pretty much only comes from the flashes. Let's get right back into game though and check it out. Early game just cresting 5 minutes here and TSM with the advantage.
Quick update for everybody who might have been curious about the pause. It seems Broken Blade was having a couple of FPS issues, but those issues have worked themselves out. So now we are back onto the Rift. You can see the gold at the bottom part of the screen, showing you where that 500 lead for TSM in this early game is coming from. Plenty of that on Mr. Zven here in the bottom side. Been stepping up for TSM, and remember, TSM was one of those teams at one point that was considered Bjergsen and 4 wards. Everybody else works around Bjergsen. This is the carry. This is the guy who's going to do the heavy lifting. Everybody else is along for the ride, but as you mentioned in Champion Select, he's been on Lissandra. He's been on picks that aren't known to just 1v9 the game because now they have these other guys they can trust, and Zven's the kind of guy you can put that trust in.
This season has been such a different story for TSM. They've grown so much over the split. Bjergsen, one of the most roaming mid laners in the entire league, and a tremendous amount of emphasis put on playmaking for these guys.
And I think when you see that shift for TSM, you have to think about the change in the coaching staff, right? Ziggs coming in, giving a new look to this squad. And he has been one of the strongest coaches, I think, in the league. And it's going to be such a battle between him and Reaper, who did just pick up Coach of the Split.
All right, that being said, still very early on in the game. Cloud9 have been able to stem the bleeding here. Akaadian actually venturing very deep into C9 territory. I think they may have an inkling here. Svenskeren's going to collapse on him.
Important to note, Hecarim level 6, Gragas level 5. Definite advantage there. Akaadian already going to use the smite. Onto the Gromp, Svenskeren coming in now, looking to maybe find some damage here. Onto this guy, there comes your onslaught of shadows. And Akaadian is way too far in enemy territory.
You said they needed a big horse, and they didn't get one.
Broken Blade will break Licorice in the 1v1.
Broken Blade says, you may be the LCS all-team top laner Licorice, but listen, buddy, you're not going to win this 1v1. Akali popping off.
Yeah, and gets his flash as well. Doesn't even have to expend his own summoner. Takes down Licorice.
My goodness, though. First, Cloud9 closed the trap on the bottom side of the map. Akaadian goes for this invade. Yes, the bottom lane is pushed up, but C9 make the choice to drop some of the CS by their bottom turret. They close the trap on the level 5 Gragas and get a kill for themselves. It's gold incredibly close now.
Let's take another look at how this happened here in top lane.
Gets booted back, so the ultimate
he
is
hit
down.
the E!
He already had the E as he was dropping through.
Yeah, Licorice just wanted to reset the wave, I believe, there. So he was just trying to reject it out after the TP. But the E was connected too early. gets in on top of him, gets the kill and the flash.
For those who aren't aware, Akali's E, once she marks you, has Summoner's Rift-wide range.
Yep.
If you mark someone who's about to TP and they go across the map, you can press E and follow them with the longest flying kick you've ever seen in your life. This champion can stick to you.
Definitely can, and that was a face of frustration there for Licorice. Really not wanting to give over an early kill to a champion like this. If you let Akali get to her Gunblade too early on in a tank versus Akali matchup, you cannot actually outpace the healing that she has.
Yeah, really nice use of the small timing window to be able to get his E off there in time. Bottom side though, once again, a visit from Akaadian. Doesn't have flash, but the ultimate is
nice
available.
Ward.
Very nicely done by Zeyzal, taking advantage of proper placement of the ward over the wall into the mountains there to make sure they can spot out Akaadian without actually being in any danger. And Akaadian will head back to the scene of his previous death, looking to contest this enemy blue buff. Does have Bjergsen right behind him.
Yeah, Bjergsen here. Zoe cannot come, so this should be an easier contest, but the C9 bot lane is coming up to assist.
Again, they're collapsing here. Even though the minion waves are pushed in, they secure the blue this time for Zven. Nobody going to go down.
Nisqy moving over. He does have an exhaust here on the Zoe.
At the very least, it did cost C9's bot lane a little bit of that farm because the wave was at their turret, so there was a cost associated with Cloud9 defending it, but certainly, you said Svenskeren needed to have a good start. He's already on his completed warrior. This horse is going to be strong.
And warrior to me tells me rocket horse. Dale, you brought it up, and I'm saying yes. If you go for the full warrior completion, especially on a champion that in the past, even when he went for a more damage-heavy build, you would often see him just stick with the uncompleted jungle item, go for a Trinity Force. Warrior is damage and nothing else, and that means he's looking to one-shot these back lines.
It will be interesting, though, because since he's on Conqueror instead of Predator, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for something like Asterix as well and try to be more of this brawling type champion. Either way, I do expect him to build a significant amount of damage. When you have Taric and Sona, you need large sources of damage coming from other places. They have Poppy on the top side, so Svenskeren is going to have to do some of that heavy lifting.
And speaking of the Sona and Taric on the bottom side, never mind, mid lane's got some action.
2v2 is going to be breaking out as Svenskeren can get here in time. Having to pick his target now, goes for Bjergsen. He's able to find the damage, and one more spin of the scythe should do it. He comes into the stasis, and Svenskeren will cut him down.
Taking down his old mid laner there, Svenskeren. Now Smoothie!
Rotation! Smoothie has to flash over the wall to keep himself safe.
Wow, the plays around the mid lane. Svenskeren getting dangerously strong. Now 2 levels up on Akaadian. TSM are going to have to avoid this guy. You do not want to match equal numbers against this Hecarim.
And the rewards for that kill in mid lane are super big. This early Ocean Drake is going to go a very long way in trying to help right this top lane. Already, Broken Blade's getting out of control on this Akali. He got the solo kill onto Licorice. He's way up in CS. That Ocean Drake is going to be just what Licorice needs to try and help sustain himself and hold off this onslaught.
Yeah, and here this is one more time. Nisqy had the redemption, does drop it very early as he sees that they're going to be going forward. He knows Hecarim is coming from behind. And despite the flash here from Bjergsen, that charge will connect.
Yeah, then he's able to get the ultimate off for the extra range here, force Bjergsen to use the early stopwatch, still in dangerous territory, and takes him down.
And getting that stopwatch on top of getting the kill, it's not like that bought them anything else. It didn't stop them from acquiring the Drake. It didn't buy enough time to allow any sort of revenge kill. That's a huge pickup.
Stopwatch, the kill, both summoners. Bjergsen going to be that much more vulnerable for any sort of repeat gank they want to go for. And looking like Svenskeren may just be making the rush towards Triforce because of that onus to do the additional damage for him and because of his fantastic start. I think it's a great choice.
I love Warrior Triforce in the jungle. That is exactly
Really?
what the doctor ordered.
And especially if it is a Warrior Triforce Hecarim that's backed up by a Tarik ultimate, giving you the immunity for team fights to actually output that damage. One of the big drawbacks, especially for solo queue of going that build, is that you get taken down very quickly. But again, C9 locking in the Tarik Sona so early is all about team fight presence for them. Sona flash ultimate engages, Tarik immunities to help them fight those 5-on-5s.
Another really cool thing about playing with this essentially high income Sona is that her speed up scales with AP. That means the Hecarim is going to be massively faster. The Poppy is going to be massively faster as they charge in for that hard engage.
Definitely one of the most underestimated parts of Sona is the speed aura that
You get
can apply.
fast.
Cloud9 will definitely be some speedy boys going into these fights. Akaadian once again here on the bottom side, going to be moving in with the sweeper, clearing out some wards just to make Cloud9 think twice if they want to come out from underneath that turret. You see Broken Blade moving into the enemy jungle top side to take that red buff away. He's saying, all right, we know that the enemy horse, Svenskaren's not going to be around here. I can take this one easily for myself, and that's going to make the lane that much harder for Licorice.
The other thing you always have to remember is it's not about comparing the farm of Zven to Nisqy. It's about comparing the total gold between these two bot lanes. That is how you're really going to judge them, as it is sharing gold. You're having two stronger people instead of one really strong individual.
Exactly. Zeyzal, very rich himself. Nisqy getting attacked there, does have some flashbacks, able to heal back up under the turret though, and they get out of range of Akkadian's engage.
And for those who wanted to do the quick maths of the gold being added together in the bottom side, it is about a 100 gold lead for TSM and their bottom lane, most of that being on the Vayne, of course, compared to the more even split between the Cloud9 members. But 100 gold's not exactly something you're going to write home about. Svenskeren nearly one-shots the enemy support. Smoothie going to be in some trouble after that one. Onslaught of Shadows coming in, looking to find him, take him down.
Akkadian too.
Svenskeren is on a killing spree, and Akadian will be slammed into the ground.
Licorice is going to come down with the teleport, pick up the other one. He has to get back up to that turret though. Broken Blade going to push it, try and finish it off.
They could threaten a dive on Zven if he stayed around, so he is going to get out of there. They're going to take a red buff back. Broken Blade, though, grabbing another place before those did fall, and his advantage is the biggest one for TSM.
A lot of the stories for TSM throughout the season have been them investing heavily in split push, in Broken Blade, on the top side of the map. They actually have not sent many resources this game there. Broken Blade has earned his own gold this time around. Getting the solo kill, huge CS lead, lots of turret plates on the top side. He's now level 11 on Akali, and the story in this game not going to be much different for TSM.
It's going to be so interesting to see how TSM plays away from that side of the map, though, because, yes, he is really strong up there, but you can see how strong the Hecarim is. Just absolutely deleting Smoothie. Can't even do anything.
Yep, then we know the teleport does complete, and nowhere for Akadian to go. They get the double charge off and finish the second kill.
The gold differential now plus 2K almost for Svenskeren in that jungle. That is enormous, and this guy is going to have a Triforce very early on. He's going to be so incredibly strong. So if Licorice can hold on elsewhere on the map, you can 4v4 as Cloud9 and be very happy to do so.
Looks like the problem is that top turret might be going down soon. So Svenskeren actually heading up around the top area of the map. They don't want it to get opened up too quickly here. Licorice definitely does need the safety of some defense like a turret to be able to hold off Broken Blade right now. Broken Blade not going to extend under the turret though. Doesn't open himself up for a gank quite yet.
And as you guys certainly know, if those solo lane turrets start going down, that top laner is going to be in your jungle. He's going to be impacting that jungle matchup. He's going to be taking
yes, we know.
All too familiar with that life. The first turret will actually fall there in the mid lane. Cloud9 will take that one down for themselves. Nisqy making sure of it.
All right, Nisqy, that is really going to be a very big playmaking turret destruction for Zoe. Whenever you take down mid turret, it's so helpful for Zoe. Looking for these angles for the Sleepy Trouble bubble throughout the mid lane over all of these walls. See if they actually get punished here, though. Nisqy going in. Broken Blade is on a ward.
Here's Licorice.
Nice damage coming out from Nisqy onto Bjergsen. Going to force the flash over the wall as Licorice comes to collapse.
Oh.
He's
getting channeled. Broken Blade could be in some trouble here. Sneaky coming in. Svenskeren going to be taken very low. Taken down. Shut down. Credit over to Broken Blade. And Nisqy's going to kill onto Akadian in response. 2 dead on the side of Cloud9 as Licorice will fall to Broken Blade.
What a brawl. And TSM making use of their extra mobility here as they collapse and get the 2 kills onto Licorice and Svenskeren, just dropping Akadian. But on the out here, Nisqy fighting them off, getting some big chunks.
Yeah, Broken Blade brought so much time for the rest of his team coming in, and C9 just didn't have all their pieces together at once. They need the Tarik there for that ultimate to be able to fully commit to those sort of fights.
This Zoe is doing the kind of damage I was expecting to see when I mentioned earlier that she needs to be the cannon here for this team. Nisqy showing that, yeah, you might be able to hop in your little shroud, but as long as he aims the paddle star true, it's not going to protect too much.
And that poke was so critical because it allowed C9 to maintain control and now start up this Infernal.
Yeah, all right, focus on objectives here. Nisqy's still trying to poke out TSM. Nisqy himself is warding off the rest of this team. So even though TSM got the extra kills, Cloud9 will once again get the dragon, get the objective, and this is the second elemental Drake for C9.
All right, here this is one more time. They wanted to collapse on Broken Blade, but the E over the wall not only denied Svenskeren's charge, it denied any opportunity for Licorice to try to stun him against the wall. Then Sneaky comes in, but look at this burst. There's no resistances built up on the Hecarim.
Yeah, big burst damage there from Broken Blade at the beginning. Akadian also going in, they secure the extra kill. And as you know, TSM are able to push the wave afterwards, but C9 answer with a dragon.
Back and forth so far between these two squads as Licorice gonna find his way onto Broken Blade here, but Tank Poppy not really gonna threaten to 100-0 your Akali, so Broken Blade can pretty easily walk away from that one as Baron is not live for another 2 minutes. Rift Herald still on the map for another minute and a half, and TSM are gonna start it up.
Yeah, TSM should be able to secure this one. Nisqy trying to poke around though and soften them up. You can see Broken Blade controlling the top side of the red jungle here, but he might get collapsed on. Licorice is closing in.
And Tarik is here this time if they want a hard engage. Licorice is coming in from behind.
Licorice manages to throw Smoothie out of the fight, but he'll make his way back in. Gonna be stolen away by Sneaky to start off the fight. Akadia now in some trouble, gonna be taken down by the Sona here as well. Cloud9 coming up big in this one.
Licorice there on the top side does distract Broken Blade, keeping him away from the rest of the fight. He flashes over afterwards, and it's C9 as a team using their synergies with the double support squad right down mid lane with the Rift Herald now.
Yeah, they can go really far with this if they want to. The Sheen, as well as Seraphs, is up now for Sneaky. He has a lot of damage and poke coming out there, as well as the additional sieging potential. They can try to press for a second turret here if they want to.
Going deeper and deeper into that enemy territory. Broken Blade now going to find himself into the fear from Onslaught of Shadows. Does manage to get himself away. Mid lane tier 3 will suffer the damage from the charge of Shelly, but Cloud9 do not want to go any further. Not with Akkadian back up. Instead, they'll back away. They'll take the red buff on their way out, regroup, buy up, and get ready to go again.
This game definitely delivering. C9 versus TSM throughout this entire split has been incredibly exciting. Even though the victories both went to Cloud9, very, very big opportunities for both of them in each of their earlier games this split. And this time around, once again, the team play of Cloud9 is what's on display.
And they're looking for Broken Blade down here on the bottom side. Here comes Zven.
Garen trying to secure the kill here. Remember, he doesn't have the ultimate, did use it earlier. Still about half the time left on that cooldown, and Broken Blade escapes with the flash.
And meanwhile, Zven has been steadily scaling up, building up these items. He's closing in on that Rage Blade, which is such an enormous completion for the Vayne. Turning that Silver Bolts into every 2 hits when stacked, you can shred through people.
And honestly, the only guy you need to really shred through even is going to be this Poppy for Licorice, because look at the itemization on the Hecarim. As you already mentioned, went for the Trinity Force right after the Warrior. Super strong, hits like a truck, crashes into the ditch like 1-2 if something goes wrong.
That's again why so much of these teamfights hinge on special timing windows. It's the Tarik ultimate immunity. It's the duration of the Sona ultimate stun. It's the outplay potential from all this mobility on TSM's side. They really have to make very good use of their positioning to create these outplays.
Nisqy being handed the blue buff means plenty of projectiles will be spammed the way of TSM for the next couple of minutes. 21 minutes in means Baron is alive on the table. You can see wards from both teams around that area, but it's mostly the song of TSM being sung by the Vision here.
The other thing we have to mention that we didn't talk about earlier is this does give you access to a double Sightstone on the side of C9. So when they are playing around these objectives, you have so many additional wards. So while TSM is holding control in this area for now, if C9 is able to ever wrest that away from them, they're going to have so much vision for Nisqy to play around by these objectives and set up picks, set up poke.
And if you look at TSM, look at the trinkets. 1 sweeper. 2 sweepers, excuse me. Smoothie does have 1 as well, but that's still quite a lot of vision to have to clear out with only those 2 schools available. It's highly likely you at least miss 1 or 2 of them.
All right, with the Infernal Drake approaching very quickly, TSM actually do have positioning on the bottom side of the map. C9 spent a lot of their time clearing out vision around Baron first before transitioning over.
Nisqy with a cheeky steal in the big chicken there, keeping that one away from Akaadian, who has honestly fallen pretty far behind this game. Level 10 on the Gragas compared to level 12 of the enemy jungler. If you take a look at the gold comparison between the two, he's 2,500 down.
And critically though, the Rage Blade for TSM has come in. They want to fight for this, but you gotta stay alive. You gotta stay safe in these team fights, and we'll see if he's gonna be able to do it, because a Warrior Triforce done this early on Jungle Hecarim is terrifying.
Fight could be starting off here. Broken Blade into the smoke.
Side.
Down to half HP, but here comes your initiation. Akadia looking to start things off. Gonna be Ryle Growth knocked away though. Licorice will accidentally save the enemy jungler, but he's able to take down Smoothie at the same time. Damage comes through for Cloud9, and this team fight is fierce.
Again, C9 grouped up as 5. Big advantage here, and TSM went for the engagement. Akaadian barely escapes with his life, but Smoothie not so lucky, and C9 will take the turret. They will take the Infernal Drake, and they are taking control of the mid game.
And look how fast they heal up. They got Ocean and 2 healers there, straight back to full. If you win that poke battle, it's not going to be close. You have to win a quick fight against this style of composition, or they just heal straight back to full and you are doomed.
And this is probably their most powerful point here in the mid game. Very big item spikes of these AP burst damage coming through. Lichbane for Sneaky, adding so much.
TSM's heading to Baron. They're going to try to sneak this while C9 is actually pushing on the bottom side. This is huge.
You have Blade of the Ruined King, Rage Blade Bane. This will go down incredibly quickly once that is stacked. Look at the health bar just deplete and deplete, but they cannot do it quickly enough. They know Cloud9 is on the way. And if you think the game is hard already, gentlemen, wait until you donate a Baron buff to your opponents. That's what's creeping into their minds right now, and they have to disengage. Akaadian retreats over the wall with the body slam, keeping himself away from Svenskeren.
TSM keeping C9 honest, stopping that push on the bottom side with the threat on Baron, but with the extra control ward there, I think it saw them sneak over to it, and C9 don't give it up.
Cloud9 pulling ahead bit by bit here in this game. 5,000 gold up, 3 Elemental Drakes up, 3 turrets up. Everything going in their favor here so far, as that team fight just showed how difficult it is for TSM to be able to make something happen. Akaadian still so far behind this game. No stopwatch, and when you look at the inventory, he's not even building towards the hourglass, so things like this happen.
Yeah, let's take another look at this. Akaadian is on a control ward. He sees the squishies grouped up together, goes right at Bjergsen with the flash initiation, but there's no damage ready to follow up for him. So as soon as he initiates, he has to try and get out of there. Then, luckily for him, he does barely survive the Licorice ultimate. There's nothing left for the TSM squad to finish off that team fight, and they get run away.
They get run over, and let's be honest, that was not a perfectly executed team fight from the side of C9. You know, you reject out Akaadian saving him, and Sneaky did not actually land the Sona ult, and they still won it. Now they're forcing so heavily on these hits. They're saying, come 5v5 us.
They don't even need the Baron. Sneaky may be in some trouble, though. It's going to be isolated from the rest of the team now, looking to regroup. Zeyzal trying to protect him, keep everybody safe there with the Tarik ultimate. Licorice will be knocked away as he makes his TP into the fight, but it's still tier 3 turret down in mid lane for the side of TSM. Cloud9 could look to re-engage, try to start a fight here for the inhib itself.
Again, grouping up as 5, making use of the double supports here for the team synergy, pushing in towards the inhibitor.
Cloud9 not stopping anytime soon. Man, those power cores hurt. Sneaky putting half the HP into Zven as Broken Blade goes in the face just to keep himself alive. Gets himself away from the follow-up stun now as well. But with your top laner hurt, TSM is now on the back foot more than ever, and Cloud9 will take the in-hit.
Yep, they push him back, and like I said, if TSM can't win a decisive quick fight, the poke does not matter from Jayce whatsoever. You're going to heal through that time and time again. C9 will stay grouped as a 5-man squad. Also, if they start off Baron, with Taric and Sona, you will never go below full health.
And it's also difficult because for TSM, you'd also look at splitting the map, trying to push out side lanes with their mobile Akali, with the Vayne, and try and get pressure in multiple areas. But there's so much speed on Cloud9 with Hecarim, with Sona speed ups to chase you down. That's very dangerous. Baron here.
Akkadian loses 80% of his HP in a single shot. There's no way for him to go into the pit and try to contest. Baron's going to be taken down. Cloud9, having already secured the objective, will now look for the fight. They'll find Bjergsen. They'll find Smoothie. They'll find Zven. And Cloud9 will look to find the win right here. Vayne is down. And Cloud9 is on the victory march.
That should be it, Flowers. Cloud9 have the Baron and a super. They are going to march it down mid and close out game number 1 in just over 26 minutes.
It was back and forth for quite a while in the early game, but TSM fell apart after Cloud9 was able to make their team play, sing the song they wanted. They're on to the Nexus itself. They'll go into the ultimate just to look cool while they do it, and they'll take down the Nexus and win game 1.
TSM unable to gain enough map pressure to make use of the Vayne, of the Akali, and C9 grouping up for some big team fight wins.
I've got to give so much credit that game to Svenskeren.
Yes,
he played
sir.
incredible. And when you have this monster in the jungle, 2 levels up, who is your hard initiation and can threaten those backliners by himself, I mean, it gets so hard.
It's got to feel really good for the ex-TSM jungler, especially getting these kills on his old teammates, not playing a supportive tank anymore.
Oh, no.
He gets to play the Hecarim, gets to go full damage, and gets to make Flowers happy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like to see in the jungle. Put your carry pants on, have Taric and Sona stand by, give you some heals, give you some shields, all that good stuff, and man, did it work for Cloud9. And on the other side, TSM just wasn't really able to find their stride this time around. Gonna have to make some changes in game 2.
Do you have to give credit to Broken Blade, though, who I think had a very strong game in that side lane? He showed that he can match up against Licorice. He gets that solo kill outplay. You know, there were bright spots for TSM, but I think they have to look hard at the draft, and we may need to see Sona Taric banned out.
Well, we'll see how they adapt in game number 2. But as Cloud9 drew first blood in this best of 5, we're gonna hear what the State Farm Analyst Desk has to say about their win.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. Cloud9 coming away with the first game in this series. You know, a lot of times game 1's a best of 5s. They can be slow. Slow starters. Everyone's kind of feeling it out. Not this one. First few minutes, we've got kills across every single lane on the map.
I mean, even before the game started, we were already talking about crazy picks to Sona Tarik, and I know you have a lot of experience with that.
Oh, baby. This was showed up in Academy for North America initially. It's been scrimmed by a lot of teams. It blew up on EU, solo queue or something is where it got its origination. But this is not a 2v2 lane-focused comp. Like, whenever you see a weird bot lane using, they're picking it for some cool synergy in lane. It's not about the lane at all. You have weak push, and the best you can do is ignore bad trades because you get to heal through it. You get double gold generation item. Taric takes the farm early, then the Sona gets it. You get double sightstone. That's sick, and then it's what those two do together in combination in team play that is really supposed to be the focus. Laning phase, you just get pushed in and try and CS.
And it's even more important that it happened in game 1, because let's say they lose with this comp. Okay, whatever. You tried something out, it didn't work out. Now TSM has to come into every single match thinking, do we need to now spend more bans, perma-bans in every side against this? Have we even practiced playing this? Could we take it away? The fact that Cloud9 won with this draft means that every single match will now be affected. And if TSM was not ready for it, they better make up something quick.
Well, I'd like to see how that draft goes when the pony, Hecarim, isn't as big as he is. If you're picking Sona, Taric, you're kind of sacrificing your bot lane, as you saw, that got killed in lane. They probably shouldn't get killed in lane, but they did, and they lose lane regardless of that. So if their middle side of the map isn't destroying like they are they still able to do what they're able to do? So I'd be curious to see how this goes in the future. One, by changing 2 things. Picking a longer range AD carry like a Jinx or a Caitlyn that is able to walk up and give like a supporting Lulu to go with that, and not to die so often mid and jungle, right? That Hecarim was like 4-0.
He's busted right now. Pony's broken.
Pony, if it goes to every lane, gets one free kill per lane.
That's every game.
That was not a pony performance.
That was a stallion.
Yeah, the early lane point, though, is something that could also be improved for the Sona Taric lane. You're saying the Hecarim's not necessarily going to get that ahead, but the Sona shouldn't die
level 3
with how Nisqy played that. You know, that was a big mistake by him and can be very disastrous for the lane. He's standing on top of a ward, hugging a wall versus a Vayne. That's basically asking to get engaged on. And you see, they don't really trade back well. They get ignited and blown up. But if you don't die there, sneaky in lane, you're supposed to actually... I had it here.
Throw this up there.
But you're not supposed to die. You're supposed to lose a trade and then heal with the double heal.
You should be a coach. Don't die.
Yeah, don't die in lane, please.
Get advice.
But what's really annoying about the Sona Taric is when you move into team fighting, it's good against poke because you have double heal. It's good against engage because you have Taric and vulnerability. And it can even work in 4-1 comps if you want to put a split pusher. Sure, they picked a Poppy with it for all team fight, but you can put whatever you want in the top lane with this comp. And yes, you do need to find damage from elsewhere, but Hecarim's the highest damage jungler in the game, basically. Like, this comp is actually super good, and it doesn't rely necessarily on getting ahead because you have so many built-in defensive steroids in the comp.
Remember a few weeks ago during the regular season, Cloud9 was experimenting with these compositions that had a ton of supports and 1 or 2 damage sources with the Ornn top, the Morgana mid lane, and it was just the Jinx as a hyper carry. I think they're refining that with the Hecarim in the jungle now, so they're probably coming into this draft with a lot more to show than just this composition.
We saw the Morgana in the mid lane come out in yesterday's Academy series as well for Cloud9. So as you mentioned, just more to indicate that they're very much willing to move into a supportive, group of members behind a singular carry. We talk about the success of this team comp in particular because of how far ahead that pony got. Svenskeren on Hecarim. Before the matchup, we said, hey, this guy is a totally different man when it comes to the postseason, and once again, he has shown us exactly that.
Well, he's an absolute chattier. Level 6 to 5, gets the steal, and the second that this happens, Akaadian knows he's doomed. The Concur has been procced, you have invaded. There was not a lot of priority there because of how quickly the bottom lane can collapse. And here, once again, Nisqy does a really good job of baiting this in, but then the Hecarim is here, and that's the big danger about this pick. He's so fast to counter gank every single time. You think you have to jump on the lane, Hecarim can press goes, pops his E, and makes it.
It was a big deal that he did get this far ahead, and it was a lot of punishing the mid-jungle duo of TSM. Like Akkadian, you see in a lot of these plays, is the one who goes in first and then gets flanked and engaged on later, or is caught in the enemy jungle. Sven does a really good job punishing those.
I'm still not sold on the Sona Taric comp. I think if you ban Hecarim, it changes a lot of that comp, but you could also replace it with like a Kindred or something like that. But I'd really like to see a long-range AD carry with a more traditional team comp from TSM. I believe if you just have a normal team comp, you'd be able to walk over them as long as you're not behind. Since you just don't have an AD carry on the side of C9, your sustained damage in a fight just isn't there. So if you make it so you don't bleed early game and you have a normal team comp that has a tank in front, has a long-range AD carry, you should do more damage in a team fight. You don't need to dive them. You don't need to like peel either because you just do more damage over time. So I don't know.
I do still want to focus in, though, on this jungle matchup because, again, Akaadian had a very solid performance in his quarterfinal matchup. Of course, we mentioned that it didn't look like he was very much tested. Well, he just took a punch to the face here against Svenskeren, and if he wasn't feeling the heat before this matchup, he sure as heck is now. And so, looking ahead towards Game 2, maybe a Hecarim ban comes out and you eliminate that matchup. Exactly.
And
it is only Game 1.
They lost Game 1 as well in the quarterfinals.
Plenty of opportunity to claw this one back in. We're not going to call it just yet. But I do wonder what Akaadian might do, what steps TSM might take to protect Akaadian in this jungle matchup against Svenskeren, as it looks to maybe be that hinge point for the series.
Yeah, I was very surprised he went with the Gragas as a pick right now because when you take it that early and you already show your solo lanes as Jayce and Akali, where are you really going to synergize when it comes to a team fight? This is more of like you have Gragas to win the early game, and if that doesn't go well, he's not going to do a whole lot. So I want to see Akaadian be given something that scales better into the mid game with the composition built around them, because what are you going to do when the Poppy comes out? When the Taric and the Sona are picked so early, you're just not having the right tools to succeed. So champions like Hecarim do allow you to, no matter what happens early, you always have a way back into the game, and Akaadian needs that.
Mark, final thoughts?
I was going to say Gragas was probably an overreaction to Sona Taric. You split them up during a Taric ultimate, so not that many people get it, but that's tunneling way too hard on like trying to break up that bot lane synergy.
A whole heck of a lot happened in that first game of the series. It's only raised more questions for us in how this best of 5 will play out. Cloud9 picked up the first win, but TSM gets their second shot when we return. Don't go anywhere.
Can I turn up Smoothie a little bit more?
Copy.
Can I have Smoothie turn up a little bit more? Can I get a Smoothie, please?
Ben goes in for a trade against the wall.
Be able to find a stun on the Sneaky there, who flashes away, looking to keep himself alive, but no, sir! It's first blood over the Sven.
Zven and Smoothie, but here we go!
Into the mid lane, Bjergsen now going to be in some trouble himself. Sleep coming down, more damage going through. Nisqy's able to find himself a kill, but here comes the counterattack. It's Akadian making it 1-for-1. Svenskeren nearly one-shots the enemy support. Smoothie going to be in some trouble after that, but onslaught of shadows coming in, looking to find him, take him down.
Akadian too.
Svenskeren is on a killing spree, and Akadian will be slammed into the ground.
Hecarim, this win. Yeah, nice. Good fight. Yeah. I can go, yeah. Poppy. Nice, go. Yeah, good.
Now we turn.
I'm not ulting. Just holding. Kill Jayce.
Run down mid. Run down.
Speed, high speed.
We won.
Go fast this time.
We already won.
Yeah.
To change the world of gaming, you have to go beyond what's next. Break boundaries, make history, and force the universe to take notice. The world's most powerful and most upgradable gaming laptop with Intel Core processors. The Area 51M defines the future of gaming.
Congrats, Kim. You got your own car with your own insurance.
No more driving that old hand-me-down.
Did you trade it in?
My parents handed it down to my little brother.
You ready?
Yeah. Surprise! No, not Beige Betty. You guys can't do this to me, seriously?
That car's like a rite of passage.
How do you expect me to drive this?
Just turn the key and yeah, it's just, it's automatic, dual cup holders.
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm.